Hi, I'm Sarah Green. I'm talking today with Harvard Business School professor Joseph Badaracco. He's the author of The Good Struggle: Responsible Leadership in an Unforgiving World. Joe, thanks for talking with us.
Glad to be here, Sarah.
Joe, when you talk about, in the title of the book, The Good Struggle, what do you mean by that, and who exactly is struggling?
Well, I think a lot of people are struggling now. Leadership has always been a hard struggle, but everybody today lives in a world where there's markets for everything. The markets are always on. The performance pressure is really intense. So everybody's struggling, sometimes to keep their job, just to keep their head above water. So what I wanted to do was try to get some idea of what makes these struggles, for some people, sometimes worthwhile. There are clearly futile struggles, pointless struggles. Sometimes people need to fold up the tent and move on. But there are some struggles that are really valuable for people. These are struggles where people are, first of all, trying to accomplish something, not in the distant future, not some grand vision, but something here and now in the next few months for a specific group of other people. They believe it's really going to matter to those people. They believe it's going to matter to their career. And on top of that, they feel that as human beings, they are being tested. They are putting their best selves into what they're doing. They're learning, they're growing. It may not be pleasant along the way, but it's a valuable experience for them, and they're doing something to make the world better in the near future, not some long-term visionary future.
So as you dig into that in the book, a lot of what you end up talking about are entrepreneurs. Why did you focus so much on that community?
Well, two reasons. First, I'm interested in responsible, successful, effective leadership. But I really wanted to look at individuals who were struggling. And most of the studies and most of the research and most of what you read about responsible leadership tends to focus on well-known, well-respected leaders of big companies. If you look at entrepreneurs, they struggle all the time. They've got no money, they have no staff, they worry about people stealing their ideas, they can often be worried about top people leaving. So I wanted to look at struggle in its sort of clearest, most dramatic, everyday form, and entrepreneurs were perfect for that.
Now, how does that differ from the sort of previous leadership model where in the book I think you call it industrial statesman? How is that a little different?
Well, I think it's dramatically different, so I'll exaggerate a little bit for clarity, but the old model of a responsible leader was typically a man who had spent decades working at one company. There were often thousands, tens of thousands of people there. They had often been there for most of their careers. Think of IBM, General Motors, great European companies in their heyday. And so responsible leadership was building a set of values into an organization, working long-term with stakeholders in society, having a long-term vision of the role of this company that in some cases was almost as big as a country in the society around it. And entrepreneurial companies, of course, are much different. A lot of them are hoping to get through the next 6 months and get funded again. So it's a radically different world.
So in your research for this book, you asked people a series of questions, and one of those questions was, why have I chosen this life? And kind of, is it still worth it? Can you just talk a little bit about why you asked that question and maybe what kind of answers you got back?
Well, I asked the question because I think in my experience, it's a question that a lot of people ask themselves when the struggle gets really tough. And they often think back, maybe sometimes romantically, about other options they might have taken, and the grass might have been greener, but they are where they are and life is tough. So I wanted to get a sense of what, for entrepreneurs, and by the way, most of what we hear about entrepreneurs are the great success stories, often the great financial success stories. You know, most of these small businesses, new businesses, fail. So I want to get a sense of why they struggled. And it was partly because they wanted to be successful, they believed in their product or service, and they weren't monks, you know, they wanted to make money, okay? But at a deeper level, they were trying to live a life that really mattered to them.
So I want to just contrast that with maybe the answer that the industrial statesmen of the last century might have given if you had had the opportunity to ask them. What do you think they would have said to that question?
Well, again, I'll dramatize and simplify a little bit. I think the industrial statesman answer says that you are joining a great organization. It's been here for decades. It will be here for decades. It's an enduring part of society. We change the world in so many profound ways. We matter to hundreds of communities, etc. And we have a set of values that we've worked out, and we want you to become one of us, and if things work out, you'll be here for a good deal of your career. That's the old view. I think the new view is much more project-oriented, but it's got to have a nearer term, more personal, more concrete payoff. You're not sort of a workman building a little stone that goes into a great cathedral. You're trying to do something that's going to matter here and now.
Well, Joe, this has been really interesting. Thank you so much for talking with us.
You're welcome, Sarah.